Yeah, it looks like you made a couple different pivots along the way in order to shift to and augment to a business model that can adapt to, what the U.S. market wants versus what the England market wants. And then through that process, you went and raised, a series of money. You think you did a Series B for about 15 million bucks, and then you acquired Texas book companies along the process. Now, you told me earlier before the pod, you guys are scaling past $80 million in revenue now, which is a huge accomplishment. Um, One thing I'm very curious about is like back in the UK, you had a large layoff at one point. And as a young founder yourself, you're 34 years old, you're a CEO in the seat, you can deal with imposter syndrome sometimes. And you had to go through this series of transitions to lay people off during a time where it was unpopular, of course, right? How did you navigate through that?
Yeah, a really good question, Sam. It's a question that's not really asked enough, and it's very important to me personally. Obviously, those that were let go, it's a really negative, difficult time for them as well. And it's something that happens in the business world all the time. It's not really talked about or understood or reflected on enough. It's sort of like hidden to the side. Anyway, we've been quite lucky. I've been doing this 10 years, and it's the only layoffs we've had to do. And partly good strategy, making the right decisions and managing costs and revenue well, and partly luck with investment around the product market fit happening at the right time. We're profitable this year, which is super exciting. Profitable now, actually. So hopefully we're past those trickier, juggling investment, revenue, cost situations. Um, Anyway, so essentially what had happened was we raised the Series B, COVID, raised a ton of money, quite ambitious with our plan. The UK had gone really well. We'd had a COVID burst there, got to 60 unis. There's 100 between us and others in the space, pretty much saturated the UK. Unfortunately, the UK had started to cut some COVID budgets and went back. And the CFO and myself hadn't realized until about 6 months in. And so that was on us. And so we should have known that earlier with better tracking, financial planning, etc. So what we do now is the COO every week actually reports on how the accounts are tracking versus what budget said they would track to. So we know in advance if there are any issues. And the other issue was we planned for US growth, and we had got product market fit at that point. Stuff wasn't working quick enough. Anyway, the combo of those, we're burning nearly $10 million a year, running out of money. We had to make the cuts. It was really tough. I remember it was quite an emotional day, obviously really hard for those that had been let go, many of whom were great employees, and just unlucky. And I have to take responsibility for putting them in that situation. And with different decisions, we could have avoided it. Different decisions largely from myself. So yeah, definitely a bit of a dark day, to be honest, and a dark time. So I must say, it was a big learning experience, both in terms of like, okay, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? And a big part of not happening again is has been breaking out of the like VC excessiveness approach to business, which sort of everyone has to do now. But back in 22, we were one of the first cutting, if that made sense. And so we've been extremely careful about hiring. So we only add new hires. New hires, a proposal has to come to the executive team. I have to explain exactly why the new hire is required, obviously why technology tools can't do the job, etc. So our software division is actually still a bit smaller now than it was then, which is kind of crazy because revenue is like 5 or 6 times higher. We obviously have a retail division now, so many more employees on that end of the business. And yeah, I guess just, a time to reflect and try to make sure we made better decisions going forward. In the VC world, there's always so much investment sloshing around prior to the last couple of years. And this kind of mentality from the investor board executive level of just spend anything you want. And if some revenue grows, that's good. And it doesn't really matter about how much you lose. And I think that never made sense in any environment. People just getting carried away.
Yeah, this is the tough part about people who go raise VC today. And for the audience to understand, VC is all about escape velocity growth. For you, when you go and raise VC, there's an inflection point where you have to understand whether you want to go put money back into R&D or put money back into revenue growth, right? And the VC firms are heavily persuading you to, grow revenue nonstop in any way possible. And then that can affect profitability at the same time. How do you manage that expectation to understand whether you want to go build a product very well, or you want to still get that hockey stick revenue growth because you have a VC firm on you every single day, wanting you to go scale as fast as possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of founders raise money because actually it ties in perfectly with your last question, because they've hired too many people, and rather than right sizing a company to reflect the realistic growth rate and revenue and profitability, they think, well, I can avoid laying people off if I just raise tons more investment. And actually that just prolongs the problem and compounds it, because the new investor's going to want you to grow even faster. Um, so I think the simple answer is only ever take VC money if you're 80, 90% confident that the money will make you grow faster. So for that to happen, you need to already have product market fit. The growth rate needs to be pretty good. And the limiting factor needs to be not enough marketing spend, not enough salespeople. I guess anyone to build revenue. So that's obviously product ops, etc. Or in some cases, you need capital to set up new customers. So maybe you do sign-on bonuses or you have to buy inventory and stuff like this. And most of the founders I knew would raise when product market fit was shoddy. We did it 3 or 4 times, and you shouldn't be raising them maybe small amounts to just kind of tick the small team over until you figure things out. But like to raise a few mil and hire 10 salespeople, you have no product market fit. It's not gonna fix anything, make things worse.